so this was the talk of Justice Romet. The next speaker who I want to introduce is Dirk. He will give a talk about... He will give a talk about copyright and mainly also medical patents. So he will provide some insight how the pirate parties think about it, what the problems currently are, and I will let him introduce him further himself.
Thank you. First of all, do I really need a microphone, or can you guys hear me like this just as well? No? Okay, then we'll use the microphone. It's yeah, the pirate party. A lot of people ask us, why do you call yourself pirates? And we say, well, we as a society, as human beings, have come where we are today with our knowledge and our culture by sharing that knowledge and by sharing that culture. If the first person to have invented fire would have gone sit somewhere in a corner and say, this is my fire and maybe you can buy a coal from me if you're really lucky, then we never would have been able to enter the great development that we have right now, and that has resulted in everything you see around you, in the internet, in medicine, in all the inventions that have been made. We would have stagnated as a culture. We would have stagnated as a culture and probably would still be hunting deer and other big beasts, but everything we would have invented would not have happened. So we say if sharing culture and sharing knowledge, if that's called piracy, well then we will be the pirate party to make sure that that piracy will get a good name again. And two of the most important obstacles we have right now to sharing culture and to sharing knowledge are the copyright laws and the patent laws. And if you look at the copyright law, where that originated from, it was like 300 years ago. A group of printers sent a letter to the English Queen Anne, and they said, well, you really have to do something because in a few years' time there won't be books anymore, and we won't be able to write any books anymore. And the new developments in technology are making sure that we are left without any bread and any chance to conclude a business. So we need a law to protect us. And Queen Anne, she said, okay, well, if there's going to be a law, then it should not just protect the authors and the printers, but it should also protect society. Because up until then, it was basically the printers that had a perpetual copyright on the books they printed. Once they had a book printed, the author had no say in it anymore, and the printer could keep on printing it. There was no way for society to gain from that knowledge except by buying those books. And she realized that the only way a writer can write a good book if he or she would have been able to read a lot of books when he was growing up. The only way an artist would be able to make good paintings is if he or she would be able to be exposed to a lot of paintings in their own time. And from that way getting creativity, seeing how other things are done and getting their inspiration to get their own paintings. A musician would be unable to write the song if that musician hadn't heard a lot of songs in society before that. So she realized that not only it's important to protect the authors and protect the printers for the work they did, but it was also vitally important for society to be able to get that information back again after a while in order to build on that to create the next phase of culture. So she limited her copyright to 14 years. And she said, after those 14 years, first of all what happens is the author gets a choice. He can stay with the same printer, or he can go to another printer if that printer is not treating him well, if the printer is not paying him enough. That was unique. And then she said, after the next 14 years, society as a whole will get that work in return. So all the books, all the music, all the paintings will go back to society and they can copy it for free. And they can use it to build on the next culture. And that was the original idea. So that copyright would not just protect the copyright holders, but it would also give society a reassurance that all the information and culture that was sort of borrowed from society, that would be given back. Well, if you look at the way the copyright has been functioning in Holland now for exactly 100 years this year, 26th of September, we have 100 years of copyright. That whole original idea of the works being returned to the public has already disappeared. So the basic thing that made copyright worthwhile for the public has already been gone. Right now it mainly serves to give the printers and the authors an almost perpetual right. It started at 40 years, then it went to 50 years. Right now it's 70 years after an author's death before society can reuse the works that those authors have produced, before they can reuse the music that has been produced. So it has been putting a great lock on the normal way that society progresses. And that's why we think that copyright should change. When we were kids, or when I was a kid, I had very little money. You know, I had some money that my parents gave me each week, but that was only a few guilders. And I was washing cars in the street, and for that I got like 15 guilders, 20 guilders in a week if I washed really hard. But I had a lot of music. I take music from the radio. I take music from friends who bought albums. I take music from friends who had cassette tapes. And that was my entire music collection. And from that, each week, I picked that band that I really liked, and I took all my hard-earned money and I went to the record store and I bought one record. And all the other records I had on tape, those weren't lost sales. No, those were my inspiration for finding the bands that I really liked. And right now, when we do exactly the same thing, but we don't use a tape recorder, but we use the internet, it's called piracy. And all those copies that people have, that they use to pick their favorite artist from, are not seen as part of building one's taste in music. No, they are seen as lost sales. And the big record companies and the big film companies, they are enforcing their view of how copyright should be on our new society with our new way of sharing information, and try to keep everybody from sharing that information. And that's why we think that copyright should be changed, so that citizens amongst each other can, just like they have done for generations and generations, can share their own culture, can share their books, can share their music with other people. If people want to use it commercially, then we say there should be a limit of 5 years on copyright. Why 5 years? Because most of the research has shown that an author either makes his money in 5 years or it never makes it. So that's why we say 5 years is a good cut-off point. And if somebody uses your work to make a profit on it, then within those 5 years you were entitled to some money. Copyright right now is not functioning as a way to ensure that culture is being furthered, that culture is being spread. Copyright is actually barring culture from being spread. And you can see that in the way that copyright is being used not as a law in itself, but as a weapon. Most of the copyright cases that you hear of right now are not between authors and printers who have a fight. No, it's between big companies suing individuals for sharing music, suing individuals for putting music online. So it has changed from a law that regulates a business to a law that's being used by a business to regulate society. And we think that is completely wrong. 20 years ago, when you had 500 artists, and they started here, 500 artists sent in a tape to 5 record companies. And there was first a marketing manager, and he pushed a lot of those tapes aside, and he said, well, that's nothing, but these are going to go through. It went to a talent manager. He pushed a lot of those tapes aside. He said, well, those are going to go through, and the rest we'll just put on the garbage bin. Then they went to a plugger, and the plugger said, well, I cannot sell these, but these maybe. Then the plugger went to a DJ, and the DJ said, well, you know, those records, no, but those two records, those are going to take. So the 500 bands that started here, only 5 eventually made it to the radio. 5 got a chance to be heard by the general public. 5 got a chance to make money with the music. The 495 others were never heard of again. Right now, the situation is completely different. You don't have all those hurdles anymore, but it changed 90 degrees. You have the artists here starting with the tapes, and they put the tapes on YouTube, on the Piratenpartij, on Facebook, on CD Baby, on SoundCloud. And all of those artists have a good chance of being heard by the public. They don't need all those people in between anymore, because the only thing those people do right now is take money away from them and keep them from the audience. The audience now has a chance to pick from all those 500 artists who they like. And it means that a lot more artists are making money on the internet. A lot more artists are getting in contact with the public. A lot more artists are touring. And all those tours are selling t-shirts or selling t-shirt tickets. So it's a completely new business model. And what the record companies want, they want the artist being forced back in the old system where they controlled what went in and they controlled what went out. And they are abusing copyright for that. And that's why we think copyright should cease to be aimed at individuals, because those individuals, they must be able to choose their own music. We want to protect those 495 artists that are now working on demo tapes from being forced into the same old system again, where 495 of them would do it for nothing. And we want to protect the audience from being given the limited choice again, made up by marketing people and bloggers, and they should be able to get their own choice from the widely available music on the internet. And that's why we think copyright should change, and copyright right now doesn't function the way it should. Another entirely different part of what we call knowledge ecology. We sometimes say that purple is the new green. And when the Greens came into the political spectrum 20, 30 years ago, they were really focused at ecology. And we say the thing that the internet puts on the foreground is knowledge and ecology. How do we make sure that the knowledge that we as a society have, our culture, how do we make sure that it keeps on blossoming in this day and age? And patents are the second part of that ecology. And what you see right now is that patents have ceased to protect innovators. The only way that you can really make money from a patent is if you don't have one patent, but you have like a whole slew of patents. And those people that have all those patents are usually the people that haven't invented zilch. The only thing they've done is they've bought up the properties of inventors that went bankrupt, and they say, hey, now I got 50 patents, and another company said, well, I got 60 patents. And you see it in the way that Apple and Samsung are battling each other over the world. In America, Apple wins. In Korea and Singapore, Samsung wins. In Germany, sometimes Apple wins, sometimes Samsung wins. And it has become also, just like copyright, it has become a weapon for large companies to basically stop innovation, to make sure that they can keep entire products out of the market. But who owns those patents? And if those patents have really been given on the right grounds, if people have checked whether the technology protected by that patent was innovative, was not something that any fool could think of, and it was basically now just given to the first person to rush into the patent office, that hasn't been checked. That should be checked in court. But it takes you $1 billion to have that checked. So an inventor here in Maastricht who comes up with a really great idea, it will be impossible for him to profit from that idea, because the moment he rushes to the market, one of those patent trolls who just has a lot of patents and says, okay, well, I think your patent, your great invention goes against this patent, and this patent, so you owe me $100,000 or you owe me your company. And because that small inventor doesn't have $100,000 because he put all his money into his invention, he has no choice but either to give up his company or give up his idea to a big company. So small inventors, the people that we really need to bring our society further, it's been made impossible for them to work and to grow in our society because of those patents. Well, if patents are not used anymore to foster innovation, but are used to block innovation, then patents don't work anymore either, and we should get rid of patents. And then you have people saying, yeah, but in the medical world, patents are really important because patents allow medicine companies to make sure that when they sell their medicines, they get enough money so they can develop new medications. And that seems like a logical way of looking at things. But if you look at what the medical companies charge for the medicine right now, and how much they put into research and development, then you see that that equation isn't correct anymore either. Because we've been looking at the year reports of all the large pharmaceutical companies, and we've been doing that for 5 years now. And what you see is that of the entire income of a medical company, only 16%, so 1/6, goes into research and development. But 1/3 of the money they gain, that goes into marketing. Why marketing? Well, the medical companies aren't inventing medicine to help the entire world, to make the world a better place, to improve medicine. No, for them, medicine is a product that needs to be sold to the highest bidder. And where do the highest bidders live? In Western Europe and North America. And what diseases do those highest bidders have? They have luxury diseases. They have high cholesterol. They have too much stomach acid. They have a lot of stress. So the only way that money right now is being invested into medicine is to try to find a new disease of our world and try to get a medicine for that. So we have, right now we have 10 different statins. A statin is a medication that lowers cholesterol in your blood. 10 different statins. And they are almost all the same. There's only a little difference, a little atom here, a little atom there, that's different. But all those medications, all those 10 statins, they have put a lot of research and development into it. So instead of one medicine where you have one amount of research and development money, we have 10 medicines taking all that research and development money. And the first company to get their statin is the first company also to get what they call into the doctor's pen. So a doctor will be happy with the first statin. He says, oh wow, now we got something to lower cholesterol, ooh. And he starts writing the recipes to his patients. And all the other companies that come behind it, those 9 companies, they still want a return on their investment. But they are forced to put a lot of money into marketing in order to get those doctors to know their brand names and to try to convince them to start giving out their type of statin instead of the first type of statin. We say that it's a perversion of the way that medicine should work, and that's a perversion of the way that patents are being used. When you look at how much money we spend on those protected medicines, that's almost 100 times as much as it costs to actually produce them. There's an example I always use is Zocor. And Zocor is a really nice example because the patent of Zocor ended in 2004. In 2003, you still were paying 42 euros for a month worth of Zocor. Right now, that same statin, that same Zocor, if you buy it for a month, it will cost you 36 cents. And they're still making money on it. Those 36 cents is not given away for free. They make money on making that stuff. So last week there was a professor